After you've deployed Azure SQL Database, you can make config changes to the database instance or to the server instance because those are two separate objects in the Azure cloud. We can view them by going, let's say, to the All Resources view, and maybe I'll filter it for SQL. And so I have a SQL database and I have a SQL server object. If I go into the server object, I can click on SQL databases on the left to verify that this server controls that database. You can associate multiple databases with a single SQL server configuration. Now, clicking on the database just links us directly into the database resource, and we'll come back and look at that after. But for now, I'll click the X in the upper right. Back at the SQL server, we can also click on SQL Elastic Pools. Now, there were no elastic pools defined upon creation, but we could go back to the overview blade to create a new elastic pool. So an elastic pool lets you set some horsepower, some resources that can be shared among databases added to the SQL Elastic Pool. Also notice at the top from here, we can create a new database that will be hosted on this server. We can even choose to import a database. When we choose import database, we would have to have an existing backup. We would choose select backup and select the backup, which would be stored in a storage account. Storage accounts are being shown here. And then we would bring that into our environment as an imported database on this server. Of course, down below, you'd have to authenticate with a username and password. So I'm going to click the X and I'll click OK because I'm not saving my changes. Now, the overview blade is also very important because it tells you things such as the fact that this server is available, it's in a particular resource group and location. The server admin name is C. Blackwell. However, if I go to Azure Active Directory on the left, we could set an Azure AD Admin if we want to use Azure AD authentication instead of SQL Server Admin, which I configured upon creation of this server. So I could search for a particular user, or I could specify an Azure AD group that I want to use as having admin permissions to the database. So you'd have to sign in with one of these Azure AD accounts that's a member of this group to get in. And then you'd have to turn on support only Azure Active Directory authentication. But currently, we know that C. Blackwell is our SQL login admin account. Down under data management, if I go to backups, there is a default backup that was taken, and we have the date and timestamp for the earliest point in time restore that is available. And then we've got the option to actually perform the restore to that point in time. As you scroll down on the left under security, we have various options like firewalls and virtual networks, such as denying public access to this SQL server. The minimum TLS version is set to 1.2. TLS, or Transport Layer Security, supersedes Secure Socket.